नमो नमो गुरुदेव को, नमो कबीर सखपाल, नमो संत शरणागति, सकल पाप भय छाल। सतगुरु को कीजे बंदगी, कोटि कोटि प्रणाम। कीटन जाने भृंग को, गुरु कर ले आप क्षमा।
Religion is a serious business, so make sure we don't laugh. But you're free to laugh if you want to. The subject we have to deal with tonight is involved with our own being. We are human beings on earth by a creator we call God. God in different religions is called by different names. We wouldn't go into that. But let me start off about talking about religion. What does it really mean? I think all of you know what religion is, because I think all of you perhaps belong to some form of religion. But religion comes from the Latin word re and legare. Re means again, legare means to tie together. So if we go by that definition, religion means to put two things together, and in a religious context, it means to unite the soul with God. Now, why do we have to unite the soul with God? Because God is already manifesting in all of us as pure consciousness, as supreme intelligence, and God is the mind. God is actually everything we are. Because if you go according to the Vedantic philosophy, of which Brahmachariji and Rasaji and, I'm sorry I forgot your name, but Kalyan, you all have studied Vedanta philosophy under Swami Dayanand. If in the beginning there was only God, where did we come from? Did God have some material to work with outside of himself when God is supposed to be all alone as the Shabd or as the Word? So where did God get material to make the universe, make living beings like ourselves, to make the plants, the water, anything that you observe around you? How did God bring all of this about? Because if you as a person want to make something, you have to have materials to work with. Therefore you can create something. You can paint, you can make pottery, you can make a house, you can make anything, but you have to have the material. Now if God was all alone as a unitary being, how did everything come about? Well, in the highest philosophy of India, it is stated that God himself or herself or itself became everything. That is why God is said to be omnipresent, sarva vyapa. God is omnipresent because he is present everywhere in everything. Every particle, every atom, every molecule. God's presence is there. They're all vibrating with energy, and nothing is static in this whole universe. Every part of you, every cell has electrons and atoms and molecules all in constant motion. The brain, electrical activities going on all the time. All the muscle cells, nerve cells, they're all operating all the time. Blood is circulating. All of this is manifestation of the intelligence and energy of God. What religion is supposed to do then is to allow us to understand the immensity, the infinity, the omnipotence of God. And that God dwells in all of us. So Sadhguru Kabir Sahib has said, Sab ghat meri saiya suni sej na koi, balihari ghat tasuki ja ghat pargat hoy. God dwells in every being, every cell of your body. There's nobody in whom God does not dwell. But it is up to us to manifest that divinity of God. And therefore, you will be that noble person, that spiritual person that religion is supposed to make you into. संकल्प हो हमारा इंसान हम बनेंगे, इंसान बन गए तो भगवान भी बनेंगे. we are human beings. Insan means human beings. If we are truly human beings as God intended us to be, then of course we'll be divine in nature. But we forget our divinity and we accept the lower animalistic type of life, which I think all of you are familiar with. So we need not dwell on that. So in the final analysis, no matter to which religion you belong, you accept there is God or supreme power, Almighty Father, and that power created all of us. So-called created because God did not create. God manifested or projected Himself into all beings. So we are projections like the rays of light from the sun. Just as the water has waves, the ocean has waves, the waves and the water are the same. Just so, God can be likened to the ocean and we as the waves. We could be a ray of light and God is the sun. And that is the type of relationship we try to understand when we talk about religion. Now, it doesn't matter how you practice your religion, as long as you have this one objective in mind, is that God dwells within you, and you will not find God anywhere outside of you if you don't already find God in yourself. There's a Persian writer named Mikhail Nemi, and he said, "He who does not find a temple in his own heart will not find his heart in any temple." If you don't already have God in your heart, are you going to go to a temple and find God? I don't think the great masters have found God that way. They have all found God by meditating, going within, because the consciousness of God is in you. You are manifesting that consciousness. Therefore, all the great masters have sought God and they have found God within themselves, not outside. What we do outside becomes ritual. And I was asked to talk about ritual. Now, in religion, there are all kinds of rituals. You can have a ritual to welcome a birth, a birthday, a wedding, a death, or just lighting the lamps, the diyas symbolizing the light of God or the light of the soul. All of these things are called rituals. We are celebrating Krishna, Lord Krishna's Janmashtami, the birth of Lord Krishna. What they will be doing is at midnight, when he's supposed to be born, they will have a cradle with a doll in it to symbolize Lord Krishna, and they will rock that doll and pray to it. That becomes a ritual. If you observe a fast, it becomes a ritual. You offer flowers to deity, or you go and bathe in the Ganges, or sprinkle holy water over you. These are all rituals. And what rituals mean is that they focus your mind for that moment that you're doing the ritual, that you are doing it with devotion in your heart, with humility, and for the love of God. Now, if you have love for God, then you have to love everything in which God dwells. Therefore, we must love one another. The teaching of all the great masters is that we must love one another. As Jesus put it, love one another even as I have loved you. And he told his disciples, know ye not that ye are gods, and that which I do you can do also? The same thing is echoed by all the great masters of the world. Because the consciousness or the Spirit of God dwells in you. So when you perform any ritual, whether it may be putting a sandal mark on your head, wearing sacred beads, or putting on a certain type of clothing, a robe, garment, whatever you do, it becomes a ritual. You have a ritual of brushing your teeth in the morning, or men can shave, or whatever they do. These are all rituals. It becomes what is a rite, R-I-T-E, rite. If you do it on a regular basis, or even irregularly, once it is something you put your heart and mind into doing with some degree of understanding, it becomes a ritual. And it means you do something over and over, but in a religious context, you do it with devotion in your heart, worshiping God, and at the same time allowing your love to flow towards all beings. Let us talk about spirituality. I think all of you know what spirituality is. We are spirit. God created us in a form of spirit. Spirit is universal. You can say spirit is likened to prana. Prana is universal energy. Chinese call it the chi energy. God is universal energy as spirit. And even non-living things have the spirit of God. They all have energy. Energy comes from God. Therefore God exists even in non-living things. Because, as we said earlier, everything came from God. Therefore God has to manifest in everything. This is why we treat our musical instruments with respect. We treat our books with respect. We treat anything in the home with respect. Food with respect. We greet one another with respect. Because God is manifesting. When we say Namaste, or I said Bandagi Sahib, he was a Sat Sri Akal. It all recognizes the Master, the God, the Spirit dwelling in your heart. We bow down. Who do we bow down to? You as a physical being? No. You as a conscious being with intelligence of God in you. And that becomes a salutation. And we keep saluting one another. That's also a ritual. So everything you do in life practically is a ritual. Now, all of this is supposed to give us spirituality. Now, what is spirituality? Spirituality involves religion, but then supersedes religion. Religion is a path. And if you are going on a path and you reach your destination, you don't have to follow the path all over again. So you don't keep going over and over the same path. If you travel from Maya's home to Vancouver, and then you come back and you go back again, and you repeat in the same trip, this is what religion becomes. This is what ritual becomes. And sooner or later, the masters have taught us that we must get off this constant coming and going, and reach a destination. What is that destination? That destination is to realize in your own self that indeed God dwells there, and you realize God in your own self. It is called self-realization. It's called Brahmagyan. Brahman means God, the absolute formless Nirakar God. So when you realize that God within you, that is the ultimate in spirituality. So spirituality does not necessarily deal with rituals and religions, though it can involve them. But there comes a time when you say, okay, this ritual I've been doing is grade 1. This other ritual is grade 2. The other ritual is grade 3. Or this religion I've been practicing in this way, this is grade 5 or grade 6. And then, of course, you want to get the grade 12. In North America, they have grade 12. And then perhaps university. So sometime in your life, you need to graduate from the university with a master's degree or doctor of philosophy degree. And how are you going to graduate if you don't study your lessons? If you don't do certain rituals to prepare you, if you don't do your arithmetic or social studies, or whatever the curriculum calls for, if you don't do them, you are not going to graduate. So just so the rituals and the religion become subjects for your study, so that you can prepare yourself to enter the realm of spirituality, so you can gain self-realization, you get emancipation, you get moksha. That is called the state of self-realization, Brahmagyan or Atmagyan. And we must not forget that that is our ultimate goal, no matter what else we're doing in this life. In the physical life, we have a beginning at birth, we have an end at death. But that is not all. We have to achieve that state of knowledge, which is called self-realization. That is what spirituality teaches you. A Sakya or couplet of Guru Kabir states मानुष जन्म दुर्लभ है, मिले न बारंबार, पक्का फल जो गिर पड़े बोहरी न लागे डार. You have a fruit, it's ripe, it falls to the ground, it does not go back and attach itself. You can try to attach it back to its branch, it will not be attached. Unless you use some artificial means of fastening, glue or something. But in nature it will not reattach itself. Now you have been attached to that tree of God. If you fall away, not realizing your own nature, not realizing the divinity that you are, not realizing the consciousness of God that manifests in you as a living being, dynamic force, then you are like that fruit that falls from the tree and cannot reattach itself. So Sadhguru Kabir said, you have obtained human birth. It is after going through many karmas, perhaps many births, we don't know. Then we get the human form. And in this form, we are instructed by all the great masters that we must follow spirituality. Go within and find the abode of God. You will get that enlightenment. Kabir Sahib was sung a nice bhajan. ढूंढे पत खोल रे तो को पिया मिलेंगे, धन यौवन को गर्भ न कीजे. He also said, शून्य महल में दिया न बाढ़ ले, आसन से मत डोल रे. All of you probably heard that. What does he mean? Remove the veil of ignorance, the veil of maya, the veil of illusion, the veil of superstition. Remove them all from you, and you will find your beloved standing right there in front of you. But you can't see your beloved, but because like the bride you have a veil, and you're trying to see, curiously looking who this bridegroom is, And in arranged marriages, you're probably very curious, wanting to know what he looks like. But he's got some covering on his face. We call it mukut or maur, we say. And the bride has a veil. So Guru Kabir is using that example of the bride with the veil. It's called the ghungat. He said, remove the veil and you will see your beloved right beside you. Remove the veil of ignorance, of what is called avidya. Remove the veil of maya, illusion, and obtain that knowledge by knowing firsthand what God is. It is not enough just to go into a temple, bow down, pray, then go home and get back to your ordinary life. People all over the world have been praying for ages, for thousands of years, as long as we know human history. People have been praying. They've been going to churches and doing religious observances, ceremonies and rituals, and having holy baths and sprinkling holy water, sacred ashes, sacred marks on the forehead, sacred clothing. Would you say human beings are any better today than they were 10 years ago or 100 years ago? They still have the same passions, ego, hate, greed. They're all with us still. What is the point then of going and praying to God and say, God, you are my father, you're my mother, I depend on you, you're all my relations, you're my knowledge, you're everything. And then we behave as if there's no God. We defeat our own purpose in life because we do not give recognition to the Master that dwells within all of us. When we recognize the Master dwelling within all of us, then we will have brotherly love. Then the wars will stop. Then all the hate and greed and spitefulness, all of those will vanish. Or else they wouldn't. As long as you have all these human frailties with you, you cannot have God in your heart. Once you are God realized, all of these negative tendencies, they fall away by themselves. You have risen above them. You have control over them. So Sadhguru Kabir said, Man ko mari gagan sarjai manas sarovar pait nahai. Sit on the mind, defeat it, subdue it, and rise into the serenity of the Mansarovar lake, the Mount Kailash. It's very serene. You don't see the ripples. When your mind is serene like the Mansarovar lake, there are no ripples of thought waves called chitvrittis. When there are none of those in you, only then can you connect with the consciousness of God. And that is what is taught in meditation classes. Now, what philosophy, as I don't think I have too much time left. Philosophy comes from the Greek word. Philos means to love, and sophos means to have knowledge or wisdom. So philosophy is a branch of study for those people who love to have wisdom, who love knowledge. And there are all kinds of philosophies in the world. Even in India, there are 6 main types of philosophy, from yoga philosophy to Vedanta philosophy. In the West, there are so many systems of philosophy. Now, anything you study with the object of gaining more knowledge, because you love wisdom, that is what philosophy means, becomes a philosophy. So you can have philosophies that elevate you, like what is called the perennial philosophy. A very nice book written by Aldous Huxley. It's called The Perennial Philosophy, which explains that there's a common ground, a substratum, a basis on which everything else exists. And that basis is God. When we realize that and study that, that becomes a philosophy. You can call it spiritual philosophy. Similar, you can have any other philosophy, educational philosophy, social philosophy, religious philosophy. There are all kinds of philosophies. You have Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy, analytic philosophy, mathematical philosophy. There are all kinds. And philosophy itself is divided in so many branches called ethics, epistemology, and various other things. So what philosophy really means is you must have a love for learning and then apply that learning to your life to make your life better, more educated, more knowledgeable, to be able to understand yourself in relationship to one another, in relationship to the world, in relationship to God. When you understand this relationship, then you know you're not an individual standing alone somewhere. You're all united in consciousness. You're all united by pranic force. You're all united by the mind of God. You're all united because you come from God. All of you. No matter which religion you belong to, you're still from God. Even if you're an atheist, you have to have a beginning somewhere. If you're an agnostic and you don't know whether there is God, and your mind is full of doubt, you still have the same attributes as the person who is truly religious and devotional. You had an origin. You still have intelligence, consciousness, mind. These do not come from thin air. They come from an absolute, intelligent, infinite being. And that being is what we all partake in, and we are parts of that being. It's like your circulatory system. You have a heart, muscles, valves, arteries, and blood cells, and the different types of blood cells. They're all working together. The white cell doesn't say, I don't belong here. The red cell doesn't say anything else. And the other type, lymphocyte cell, don't say, I don't belong, it's not part of me. They're all part of the same being that makes up each one of you. The discrimination we have in ourselves between religions, between social strata, between races, they will all disappear. You know, people here quarrel and fight on the basis of race, color, religion, whatever. Have you seen 2 horses, one brown, one black, fight because of their color? They're smarter than people. But people are so dumb that they fight because the color is different. Or they're so dumb that they fight because religions are different. And they forget that the same God is manifesting in everyone. Whether you know it or not, you have the same intelligence, the same consciousness, the same mind, and everything that comes from God. All of you take part in the same thing. So if you fight on the basis of religions, creeds, dogmas, rituals, religious observances, then you will not know God. When you know God, you will see all people are the same. So what do we learn from synthesizing all of this? Is that, first of all, we are human beings. There must be a reason for our being. What is that reason? we may ask the question, who am I? Why am I here? We say Soham, or Tat Tvamasi, thou art that. Aham Brahmasmi, I am that Brahman. When you utter these things, it must mean something inside. So if you put your religion, your rituals, your philosophy and spirituality together, it boils down to one thing. As a human being, you have a connection with a greater being. That greater being we call God. And our life is meant to graduate from ignorance into knowledge, from infancy to adulthood, from lack of wisdom into enlightenment. When we can truly obtain all of these, then we can say we are spiritual beings, we are truly religious, we know our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is to realize the divinity that lies within all of us and see the oneness. We are all one. As Mahatma Gandhi put it, we are all tarred with the same brush. We're all made with flesh, bones, blood, skin. If you look under the color of the skin, everybody's got the same color in muscles and blood cells, everything. They're all the same color. Only the skin differs because of the amount of pigment in the superficial layer of the skin. So let us not get carried away by ignorance and misunderstand one another, even if they're different from us. If their practices and rituals and religions are different, we are still the children of the same God. As Mayaji has sung before, we are all children of the one. Your God and my God is the same God. That is the ultimate purpose in life. Let us try to pay attention to that. And with that, I would like to close my remarks, and I hope I have not overstated anything. I've tried to make it very simple as I understand it. So please bear with me and try your best to be spiritual beings. Thank you very much.
Thank you.